I'm going to show you how I go about finding gold in the Victorian goldfields and how I go about finding new areas that are gold bearing. And I'm also giving away this gold nugget. Step one, so I'm going to talk about metal detectors. And I know when I was starting out 2 years ago, there's so much information out there that it just gets confusing. So I'm going to try and explain it to you so it's easy to understand and hopefully allow you to make the correct decision when buying a metal detector. So I'm going to talk specifically about Minelab because I've got 2 of their machines and that's the brand I know the most about. Definitely not a sponsored post or anything like that. But Minelab, if you're watching, I won't say no to free stuff. So I've got the GPZ 7000. That's the detector I bought 2 years ago when I first started detecting. And it's been great for me. It's found a lot of gold. I paid it off in probably 7 months, I think, with the gold. So, and I'm sure you could do it a lot quicker if you're experienced, but I was pretty happy with that. But my experience with the GPZ 7000 is really, really good. It is the heaviest machine that they've got. It's definitely a good all-round machine and it definitely punches nice and deep. It has been out for quite a while now. They released that in 2015, but they do have the GPX 6000 and that's been great. I've been using that most of the time lately. The benefits between the two, so the 6000 is a hell of a lot lighter and it's kind of like the SDC when that came out. It's punching a bit deeper for smaller stuff. I found a couple of deeper, bigger targets, but I haven't found anything that matches what the 7 can punch to. So the 7000 definitely punch deeper than the 6000 in my opinion. It's more of a deep ground, bigger nugget hunter. In saying that, it does, I've found 0.1s with the GPZ 7000, so it definitely picks up the small ones as well, just not as deep as a 6000 will pick them up. Now I won't harp on about metal detectors for too long, but it's definitely something worth raising if someone's starting out and they're unsure what to do. I'd suggest that you ask yourself 2 questions. One of those things is budget. How much can you afford? How much are you willing to pay? How much do you want to pay for a detector? I'd suggest that you pay as much as you can to get a decent one. And number 2 is physical ability. If you go ahead and buy a GPZ 7000, they're one of the heaviest machines, and you've got a back issue, an arm issue, a leg issue, any physical issue, it's going to flare up after 6, 7, 8, 9 hours swinging that thing. So keep that in mind. If you've got some physical injuries, maybe a GPX 6000 or a lighter machine will be better for you. Step 2, where do I start and how do I find gold? The first thing you want to do is download an app called Australian Geology Travel Maps. Now this is something you have on your phone. It doesn't need reception to work, and it's maps that you can download and you can put overlays on them, so you can do the shallow workings, for example. So the shallow workings are the mullock heaps that are scattered all throughout Victoria, and they're a perfect place to start for someone wanting to go to an area that there's been known gold found. Mining claims back in the 1800s were typically 8 by 8 feet or 12 by 12 feet. That's why we're left with what we are today, and you can see that out on the gold fields with the piles being fairly close together and around that size when you're actually out on the field. The old timers would dig down to the pay layer and use techniques such as stamping, puddling, sluicing, panning, etc. to release the gold from either the clay, the soil or the hard rock. Using these fairly primitive techniques, they were missing a lot of gold. The benefit for us with metal detectors is we can go over that ground and find gold that they've missed or threw out or left behind. In conclusion, mullock heaps are a very good place to start, but keep in mind there are a lot of prospectors that have probably been over the ground, so try and think outside of the box, i.e. move sticks, clear some ground, maybe take some overburden off for a better chance to find some gold there. Let's talk about surfacing. Surfacing was done by the old timers when an area was very, very rich with gold. What they do is they take all the top material all the way down to the base layer and they process that material, be it puddling, stamping, whichever process they used. You can notice these areas on the map pretty easily just looking at Google Maps or Google Earth. Now the good thing with this sort of an area is you know there was a lot of gold there for them to go through that much work. The areas to the sides of the surfacing is a good spot to go and try your luck with a metal detector as well. If you want to win this gold nugget, all you have to do is like this video, comment down below, make sure you're subscribed, and you'll be in the running to tool with it. Let's talk about reefs and how we can use reefs and shallow workings together to increase our likelihood of finding gold. How do you go about finding reefs? Well, one of the best ways is using a map. Now the best maps that I've found for this is ones that you can overlay on top of your Trilobite app or your Australian Geology travel maps. It's try hard prospecting. All you have to do is go on their website, you purchase a map, you download it, and you can overlay it on top of the Australian Geology travel maps on your phone, and that'll actually outline most gold bearing reefs. In saying that, there'd certainly still be a whole lot of reefs that haven't been discovered out in the goldfields. So don't be afraid to go off the beaten track and go somewhere where the map suggests there may not be anything. We can use reefs and shallow workings together to try and find a higher concentration of gold. We do this by looking where the reefs are and if there are shallow workings below it, and we'd work the ground in between those areas. What happens with the gold reefs over time? It decays, it breaks down, and it sheds gold down the slopes. So there's a high chance there could be some gold on the slopes in between the reefs and the shallow workings. Here's a screenshot of what I was just talking about. So this is a screenshot of the Australian Geology travel maps with the overlaid try-hard prospecting maps on top of it. So if you have a look, I've marked the areas that I was talking about with the blue arrows, and you can see I've marked the workings, which are down the bottom, which are the red dotted area, and the reef, which is the yellow dotted line. The areas I'm talking about are the slopes from the reef down to the workings. But you wouldn't limit yourself just to that area. You'd work all around the reef, on all the slopes, and always be hunting for new areas that are gold producing. Another great tip I've learnt along the way is to test the ground you're working. So what I mean by that is when you're exploring, so you're away from the workings, away from the reefs, and you're just out walking around the bush, a great idea is to get your pick out, dig a hole, and just see what the ground's like underneath. If you've got a whole lot of topsoil until you get to the gravels or the clays, and you're only running an SDC or a machine that doesn't punch as deep as a 7000, then you could be wasting your time. You want to look for shallow ground, the shallower the better. And what I mean by that is the least amount of topsoil above where the gold could potentially be. I've got an example for you here about what I mean. So when you're wandering through the bush and there's just a bit of overburden, you're not sure how deep the ground is, it doesn't look too inviting, it could be this much topsoil, it could be this much, you just never know until you put your pick into the ground. So what I'll show you here is a place I was at the other day, and the ground is very shallow, and I'll show you what I mean by that. So looking at this ground, you wouldn't think it's anything spectacular, but as you can hear, as I dig into it, it's gravels just below the surface. And looking here, you can see how good the ground looks. Well, that's all I've got for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed, and I hope that bit of information helps you find your first piece of gold or many more pieces of gold. I'm definitely not a professional, but this is just information that I've gained over a few years prospecting and personal experiences. If you want to support the channel, the best way to do that is to like this video and subscribe if you enjoy this content, or you can head over to the merch shop, get yourself some Savage Prospecting merch. And this beauty over here, remember, if you want to win him, all you have to do is like, comment, subscribe for your chance to win. I'll be drawing that on the 8th of December at 6 p.m. Good luck, everyone. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed.